Unconstructed, unsuccessful, demolished, and forgotten buildings, structures, and architecture. This is an alternative proposal for the Eiffel Tower. The idea is to put these two towers or pillars on both sides of the tower, sort of like a trident. A triple spear tower. But this proposal was never realized. I think it might actually look better this way. Like a castle tower, like a tower castle. Ah, this is a giant library that was never built. By the looks of it, it could contain hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of books. I believe this is part of another building which was dedicated to Newton. This was never built. It's gargantuan. This is another aerial airport design. The idea is to build a giant checkmate landing field on top of buildings which already exist, or to build a giant checkmate landing field on top of a newly constructed tower or building on which airplanes and ships can land. Airplanes, airships, dirigibles. Again, this is a very economic idea. It can save a lot of space. The only problem with this is the buzzing noise, the buzzing sounds from the planes. Unless the building is tall enough, or unless they find a way to silence the engines, this could be a real problem with citizens and pedestrians. The only problem with this is the noise, and there should be some sort of square barricade or barrier or wall on the edges, preventing a plane from falling off. This was a possible design from the past that never came true. This is another building that was never built. This is from October 13th, 1915. This is a railway terminal. This is a railway's terminal station. This was never built. It was a rectangular design. Another failed project. This drawing is all that's left of it. I collected it to share its memory. This is not a building, or this is a drawing for how to build a perfect city. This is a horizontal design. As you can see, there are no towers except this one on the right. I like this one. I like horizontal architecture or horizontal layouts. I think this is the perfect city community. The perfect urban design. Everything is even. That way, if they are flying machines, there is no danger of crashing or hitting tall buildings, because all the buildings are small and flat and horizontal. This is a perfect place for flying. There is less chance to hit anything. I like this. This is one of the most famous tower buildings ever constructed, the Singer Building in New York. It was demolished in 1965, I believe. The same year the movie The Great Race came, one of my favorite films, with the professor. This is a sort of yellowish, orange, brownish building. Perfect choice of colors. This building was slightly above 100 meters tall. The Singer Building. I read that this is the only building that was intentionally demolished by its own owners. It was said that this building was so fabulous that another building could never be built, which is better than this one. The only way to create such a fabulous building again is to rebuild it, exactly the way it was. A person was beheaded in this building. The elevator of this building was so powerful, it was like a guillotine. It guillotined the person and chopped his head off. I'm not joking. The elevator of this building was like a guillotine, a horizontal guillotine. This was the monument to Christopher Columbus I showed you before. This is the colored version. This is how it would have looked like in real life if it was built. Again, we have the false globe again. The globe propaganda. Satan's propaganda. To destroy our memory from the Garden of Eden and our supernatural divine origin. It's a good thing that this monument was never built, because if it was, it would deceive everybody who sees it, especially the kids. They would all think that this is the world we live in. Ah, this is another Gilded Age mansion. It was built in the 1800s and demolished in the 1920s. This is Mrs. C.L. Stevens' house. This is the Stevens house. The Stephens house. I like this one. I think this is the front side. I really like this one. It doesn't exist anymore. Now this is a building. Oh. This is one of the biggest architectural monumental projects ever. This is a monument dedicated to Newton, the man who supposedly discovered gravity. And wrote the law of gravity, which doesn't exist. Objects fly only if they're lighter than air, and objects fall only if they're heavier than air. And you don't need gravity to do that. This monument was 500 tall, 500 wide, and 500 long. It was so big, it even had trees and forests growing on it. Like a little park. These are trees. These here are the people. This is the front entrance. I think this is 500 meters tall, 500 meters wide, and 500 meters long. 500 meters deep. A circular building with a giant dome. Again, the false globe again. Although this is actually kind of true. We have a flat ground and a dome on top. So this is kind of in a way a model of the flat world with the dome. But I don't think it promoted the flat world. This was never built. And if this was built, it would have been dedicated to a deceiver, a liar, who never invented or discovered anything, but was promoted only because he was part of that secret evil group of powerful people. Ah, this one is very interesting. This is another aerial airport, but a much lower one. The idea is to build a giant aerial airport or a sky airport on top of the shipyard or the docking yard. This is a New York design from the 40s, 1942 I believe, or 43 or 44, or 40 or 45, 46, 47, I'm not sure, in the 40s. I really like this one, very economical again. A great saving of space and resources. Again, the only problem is the noise from the airplanes. But then again, the ships also make noise. I guess the planes would double that noise. But this is a very interesting design. It's smooth and perfect like a puzzle, like a chessboard. I like this idea. I would have done this if I could. I would have tried to minimize the noise and make it work. This is another aerial airport bridge. These were very popular. This is the balanced landing, inclined to be mounted on skyscraper roof. I'll explain. Let me just show you. Basically, the idea is to build these mechanical, mobile, aerial platforms that can move left or right, up and down, and in a circular motion. Clockwise, counterclockwise, and up and down, allowing the airplane to land. This is like an escalator, like an aerial escalator, bridge, airplane, platform, landing field. The only problem with this is that it's not long enough and it's not wide enough. There are no walls or safety nets on the edges, which means that the plane could lose its balance and fall, but it can fly and it might not crash. Again, the previous one I think is the best choice. But still, this is interesting. This is how people from the past imagined the future of air travel and air landings.